Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is October 10th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. May I please have a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Thank you. We had an agenda that was posted on Friday. It's currently in front of you if you're on the town board. It was posted on the website on Friday. Any additions, changes, or alterations needed?
Yes, actually, I would like to add something. I would like to just introduce the idea of resolution supporting the closure of the Seneca Meadows landfill.
Sure. I will add that as item E under new business. Anything else that you wish to add or alter?
The water committee. We have a little update for you guys.
Oh, that'll be under municipal board and staff report.
Okay,
So
thank you.
plenty of time on there.
All right.
Anything else? Okie dokie. Then is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. That brings us to, sorry, I didn't get my phone ready in time. I will slowly talk while I do that. This brings us to privilege of the floor. Anybody in the public who wishes to address us is welcome to, up to 3 minutes, and my little alarm will go off. And I will go back and forth per usual between in person and online. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to address the town board? Please go ahead. Cynthia.
Do I from here or do I go come?
You can, wherever you're comfortable.
Okay. So 2 comments.
Just say who you are.
My name is Cynthia Menino. I'm a resident of the village and the town. And I just want to thank the board, first of all, two comments. Thank the board for looking into purchasing of rec lands. And I know it's been a long journey and with the community being interested in this. And I'm excited to see what happens. I think it's important to have this for kids to be healthy. So, and the other thing I wanted to thank you for is, thank you for your continued support of Winterfest. This is my 3rd year running it. And this is the 27th year of this event. And it used to be run by various groups, then by the Trumansburg area community fund with businesses. And now it's a village event. So this is a treasured event whose purpose is to bring the community together in a way that's free or practically free so that all can attend. So it also supports the downtown area. I like it because it brings community together. I'm involved in anything that brings community together because I think that kind of activity is hard to come by, something free. And I've had people thank me as I've put up the decor come up. And I know some of these people who they are, and they have told me that they were not able to go to other events, you know, kind of like the Apple Fest and whatnot, because they didn't have the funds for that. But they can come down to Winterfest and just come with the kids and just enjoy. So it gives the clubs a chance, the high school clubs come down and they're able to, you know, show what they do. So it showcases the young people in town, which is nice. This year there's gonna be an art project with Mrs. Pennick, so I'm excited about that. The Girl Scouts come down, they have a huge table, multi-troop table last year, and they had, where they were doing like the hot chocolate bar, and very fancy. So it's just, I hope that you'll come to it. It's a fun vibe. There's music, there's Santa, there's magic show. Of course, he'll be the juggle guy, and you know, and then we have all kinds of fun singing, and kids can line up, visit with Santa if they wish. There's free tastings of various kinds of foods, like from the Rotary, they make great soup, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mary. I know you're part of that. And it's, you know, you see hot dogs out there for free from restaurants, cookies, sweets. You know, so many places put out good stuff. The music is playing. It's 3 hours of fun, bringing people to the community. So, so your contributions foster the best of our area.
I touched my phone, I'm sorry, just as my thing was going off, so your
Okay,
3 minutes are
thank
actually
you.
unfortunately up. Thank you very much. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? You can come off mute or raise your hand. Okay, not seeing anybody. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to address us?
I would like to. Just Deb Ostick. I live in the town of Ulysses. I'm also the director of the Truman Zurich Community Nursery School, which is why I'm here tonight. But I will echo Cynthia's thing about the rec space in the town. That's separate from my role here for TCNS. We applied this year for a grant from the town money that you were giving away. And I was kind of hoping somebody would call and ask me to come and speak, but I decided I would just come down anyways myself. If you aren't familiar with TCNS, we have been in the community for 60 years, a not-for-profit parent cooperative preschool. We do half-day preschool for 2 to 5 year olds. Parent cooperative run by a parent board. This year we actually had a double the number of scholarship requests than we have had in previous years, which is the reason we applied for the grant. We used the free and reduced, the same income guidelines that the school uses for their free and reduced lunch program. So there are families in our community that like to be able to come to preschool and need help. We don't turn anybody away who meets the income guidelines. It's an extra burden on our budget this year, but I had stuff written down and I left that piece of paper home. But I mean, I guess this is supposed to be just me speaking and not interact, but if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
How much would each scholarship be for?
It depends on where they fall in that it's usually 25 to 50% off their tuition. That's what we do for scholarship, depending on where they fall in that income bracket. Yeah, it's, you know, but I was kind of surprised when we got so many requests, but it is what it is. One of the things that I think is really special about TCNS, and I think that our parents really appreciate, our parent cooperative aspect, that parents are in the classroom, and also that we try to foster a sense of community, not only within our own parents, but the sense that our kids in the community, that their awareness of the community. We, you know, field trip around town, we hike to Gannett Falls, so that hopefully kids, you know, feel a sense of belonging. Our parents feel inclined towards volunteering in the community as well. They have to participate in our program, but also many of them go on and run PTOs in the elementary school, the middle school. I think currently 3 of the school board members are former parents of ours. So it's, I think, an extra special benefit that TCNS provides this community to kind of like prep people for that. Is my time up?
It is, I gave you a little bonus time.
If anybody, I think my email was on the application, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to like provide extra information. This form, by the way, was very brief. There was not a lot of space for me to write all of the good stuff on there, just for your information.
Nobody wants a 25-page.
I know,
application,
and that's why I
striking
was
the
like,
balance.
I hope they could ask me to come.
Are you still out of the church?
Hmm?
You still?
Yep, yes, yeah, the after school program is in the afternoon and we're in the morning, yeah.
Well, I disclosed this in the previous special meeting, but I currently serve on the town board, or on the, I do serve on the town board, on the TCNS board. But TCNS, so I'm not weighing in on their funding allocation amount if they get funded, but TCNS will have new facilities to be able to provide full-time care in the Village Grove project. Is that what's being called now? So, big step for childcare in this community, which is
I know.
hard to come by.
Highly decision.
Okay, is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board?
Yes, I'm Carol Bogerts, and I tried to unmute before, but I wasn't fast enough.
No problem. We will give you three.
Okay. It's going to sound like Deb and I talked ahead of time and wrote the same notes, but we didn't. I am currently director of the Trumansburg After School Program, which is at the church as well, as Deb said in the afternoon. I thought our history of 38 years in the community was pretty good till I heard her say 60. So we're not quite as old as they are, but we're a nonprofit, and we were started by a group of parents who saw the need in the community. We currently serve approximately 30 children from the Trumansburg School District, but we have 18 on our wait list. So there is a great need for after school care in our community. What we do is, most basically we provide a safe place for children while parents are working, but I also think we provide a lot of educational opportunities for kids. We are a STEAM program and provide activities for children to pursue their interests, but also to explore new ones. But almost more importantly, we are able to work on social emotional skills. We assist those kids who struggle in school or who maybe don't fit in. Oftentimes at school, teachers with the academic requirements now don't have time to stop and work through a problem that children have. And that's one of the great gifts that we experience, is we're able to help children that struggle in school or that have a difficulty with their peers. And we can really spend some time working through those with children. I think that one of the things we really work on is building a sense of community. And it's amazing how the children come to support each other and help each other through those tough moments. There's a lot of pressure in school, and I think we're kind of a safe, relaxing environment where they can be themselves and kind of decompress after a tough day. I think we do provide an important service to the community. As everybody knows, these are difficult times financially for nonprofits, and we're struggling to keep going. But we do think that there's a great need for after school care in our community, and we think we provide a really good service to our families. We have very few families leave, which is a testament to the program we run. And we also have very few children who want to leave at the end of the day. They often ask to stay longer. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate your support. And please contact me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well timed, Carol. That was 5 seconds left. So thank you. Is
It's a
there
quick 3 minutes.
Is there anybody in public who wishes to address us? Okay. Is there anybody else online who wishes to address us? Okay. So I think we can move on to municipal board and staff reports and announcements. Staff reports were uploaded on the website, but it sounds like we might have some committee update, and board members could also do an update. So it sounds like water source protection.
I'll cover that. So the Water Source Protection Committee met last night, and we're getting really close on to being able to at least post the online portion of the survey. RCAP's developing it. We've done a couple run-throughs and made some modifications to it. So we're on our way, slowly but surely. Now we have to wait for the person that's implemented in an RCAP to come back from a week off. So there's always one more thing that has to go on. We're still struggling with how to disperse it to the folks that won't jump on getting online and doing it, or don't read the newsletter, or don't actually have any other finding out about it. So we'd like to have some help getting it done, and we're looking into getting estimates for parts and getting, working with, some, the mailbox community, the, mailbox people that will actually mail information out for us. So we're looking into that, and then once that's done, we plan right now, our goal is to try to get all of the survey responses completed by mid-November. Meantime, we're also looking at other pieces of data. that we can get back on, so we can start putting a story together. What's happening with water
Thank you very much.
and why people have dry wells. That seems to be chronic problem right now in the area too. I don't know if we'll answer that specifically, but hopefully it's kind of a strategy involved to help deal with those kinds of situations.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Linda? Board? Okay. Does any board members have, legislative department was not able to join us tonight because she's in a county board meeting or budget meeting right now. So she's gonna try and attend our meeting on the 24th. Any board members who wanna do any updates? I've got updates in the agenda itself. So I'll wait there.
We had an ag committee meeting last week. Did my report get in?
No, it didn't.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It did not. I will circulate that and make sure.
No, that's fine.
I'm so sorry. That's
And
it.
I should have looked, so obviously that was a clue that I didn't look. Unfortunately, 4 people came, including myself. So
Any new people?
yes,
Oh.
we had 2 new folks. One person who is a local farmer, and the other is in a different aspect of our agricultural community that we haven't really heard from yet, but the logging. So
Lucky.
yeah. So the focus last week, what we were just trying to do was different ways that we were looking at the agricultural protection plan that was developed back and adopted in 2013. And there was a whole list of items that were goals or actions that were recommended at the time. So we took a quick look at that to see what has been done, what hasn't been done, and what maybe are items that we could really key on and like just like start addressing like right away. And one of them actually stemmed, it was funny, but you're about the B sign.
Mhm.
The committee
Right to
actually,
Farm?
yeah, was talking about, could we get some right to farm signs back up on the welcome to Ulysses and we're right to farm community signs. So I don't want to add that to the agenda today because there's so much other stuff to talk about, but maybe at one point we want to talk about that when we're looking at the B signs too. And then there might be some other ties that we want to get back into the school with. The tie between the school and the agriculture community seems very weak right now. And given where we live and how strong and important the agricultural community is to our town, we felt like we need to fix that tie a little bit. So I spoke to somebody on the school board, and we're gonna try to work out some ways to interact and bring in the agriculture community with the school, variety of different aspects. So what my report had was just 4 action item lists that we thought we could crank through really quickly.
Which I will circulate.
No, you're-
I'm so sorry. I forgot.
You're
to
fine,
put it in
you're
my
fine.
folder.
Just for consideration, and then we want to try to schedule another meeting. I think what we were talking about was maybe like the second Monday of January, April, July, and October. Just officially set them and so everybody knows. That was the ag committee.
Very nice. Any other updates? Okey dokey. So what I would propose is, if the board is amenable, is to knock out some things that would be faster. Because tonight's tentative budget review might lead into another meeting. So I would recommend that we crank through some of these other things, if that's
Go for
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to old business C, update on grassroots pending water petition. Had a very productive meeting last Wednesday with with Grassroots and the town engineers, who also happen to be the village engineers, who have, you know, engineering oversight over the distribution line that runs down Falls Road that Grassroots is proposing to tap into. So MRB, Grassroots was very amenable to paying for the engineering costs. But before we get to engineering costs, MRB is going to put together a proposal for the map plan and review, present it to Grassroots in the town. And if Grassroots wants to proceed with that necessary step in the petition, we've not accepted the petition yet. In order to accept the petition for a water district, it'd be a single user water district. They do need the map plan and report. And if MRB quotes them a price that they are amenable to, then I'm going to bring back an agreement for the board to consider that would establish an escrow account. But we have an escrow account, the town does, that we can use. But we would establish an escrow agreement with Grassroots that they would put money into the fund, and then we would purchase on their behalf through MRB the map plan and report. And so they would pay for it. So it wouldn't be a cost to the taxpayer. But right now MRB is in the process of putting together that quote. I also had a conversation with Mayor Hart, and I'm going to be following up with him via email, along with representatives of Grassroots. We'll need official permission from the town, I'm sorry, from the village to actually connect to their water district, but to their water. It was a very positive conversation with Mayor Hart. So the village has made it very public that they are interested in selling water, and they prefer to sell it through the town to formal water districts. For any number of reasons we don't need to get into now. That's where we are. So we'll be getting an update. The next step before we would accept a petition would be going through that process. So I'm hoping I can bring you an escrow agreement in the next month. Would be my goal.
Okay.
And then the town board, you got a copy of it. I'm trying to find where mine is. The last Tuesday, this is the planning board resolution. This was the resolution. The signed copy was provided today. It was signed on the 6th, but it came to the town board today because of the holiday weekend. We have, there has been a request that was made in late 2022 from the owners of Initiganic to be considered for a amendment to the zoning map. They are requesting, or they presented to the town a request for the formation of a development district for the property. At the end of 2022, the town board referred it to the planning board. The planning board for a recommendation. The planning board has now come back with a resolution recommending a denial of the development district proposal. And so tonight, it's not, you haven't had time to look at it. I know none of you have read this because you're just getting presented with it, and I'm sure the public will also want to see it. I'm going to propose that the requester, the Initiganic, is not available for the meeting on for the next couple of meetings. They have requested, and I think it would make sense for us to have any further conversation when they're able to be present. Looking ahead at the meeting on November 28th. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. There have been changes to the proposal for the use of the property since they presented to the town board. They're requesting time on the agenda to present to the town board. I'd like to at least give them a time to present, but I also taking into consideration, give the board time to digest what the planning board has said also before we take any.
Are they planning to present anything different from what they presented to the planning board, or?
I think it's close to what they presented to the planning board, but it's evolved from what they presented to the town board previously. And so these kinds of requests for an alteration or for the creation of a development district is discretionary. It's not a required act the town board has to say yes to. So I think the logical next step is to hear them review the material from the planning board and decide the direction
Okay.
from there, if that's okay with everybody.
Mhm.
Okay, then I will confirm with them November 28th. Okay. Want to also extend a thank you to the planning
Planning
board
board, yay, planning board.
for reviewing and providing their feedback. And I see Rebecca's on and Linda's here also. So thank you very much for the time. I know you put in a lot of time doing it, and we look forward to digging into what you found as well.
Listen, while I'm on the planning board, the appointment we're appointing a permanent, not an alternate.
Oh, when we talked, I thought it was a permanent,
No,
an alternate.
we've already appointed, I forgot your name.
I'm Carl Blunkowski,
Carl.
I'm the alternate.
Carl's the alternate, but we're bringing Bart back as the permanent since he had already been appointed and then he resigned, but he's still in the town of Ulysses.
Okay,
So,
okay. I'm sorry. I thought he was coming back as an alternate also.
no, because we still need a permanent, we have an open seat for a permanent.
Okay, well, we can get, I think, is that coming up? That's coming up, so I will alter it. So we can alter it when we get to that, but we can make it to a permanent. The only reason is I don't know off the top of my head the permanent date of service. That's gonna probably take me a little bit to figure out.
Okay.
Let me see. Michelle, are you listening?
She's right
here.
there.
You are listening. Could you look me up look on the server for the terms of service? It's in the org document.
Yeah.
We should know how much time we have left on a position in the planning board. If you could just pull the org document and then I can figure it out from there. Would you mind just putting up a copy for me? Sure. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll figure. It's easy when it was December 31st. It's not as easy when it's
2025.
through the end of 2025.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Never mind, no printing needed. Okay, we will get to that one in just a second. Okay. Moving on to new business, scheduling of a special election. You have a resolution in front of you. These are just dates, or the locations were just finalized today. Michelle, would you mind printing out a couple of copies of this for anybody in the public? So anybody in the public who wants a physical copy, one copy. Or did you want two? Two copies, please. This schedules so I have spoken to Tompkins County Board of Elections, and they're willing to lend us the equipment necessary to do it. This would schedule the date for December 6th, so Wednesday. And that's the earliest that we could have it based on the day that the petition was. It has to be between the 6th and the 21st. So that's within the window that's allowed. The polling places would be Village Hall and Racker. Racker is commonly a voting location in the town. So is the firehouse, but the firehouse always has a Wednesday night meeting. And so the village was gracious to allow us. It's obviously a location that handles elections as well, village elections. The polling places would be open in this from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. The town board shall appoint, not tonight, but shall appoint at another town meeting, election inspectors and ballot clerks in accordance with the provisions of New York State town law. These would come from the list maintained by the county Board of Elections. Personal registration shall be required, and what that means is it'll be for this election and all going forward. The town board, we will accept in requiring personal registration. It means we are accepting the county's list of registered voters, as well as people will be able to register directly with us. That will, if you register directly with us, it does not register you with the county board of elections. But if you are not registered to vote someplace else, you're over 18, and you've lived in the town at least 30 days, you can register with the town as well.
How are we? I don't mean
Would
to
they
be
register
cynical,
here?
but how do you control that? Like, how do you prove that you lived here for more than 30 days?
So what the recommendation is as we've actually talked to the town of Manlius. The town of Manlius recently did a special election in September, and there's actually they have a form. It's a form that
Okay.
gets filled out.
I don't mean to be.
Yeah,
I don't want to
it's
restrict anybody from voting.
no, it's the way the town of Manlius did it and the way we're being recommended to do it. And those granular details will be worked out at another meeting. This is really setting the time, location, and date, and recognizing personal registration. But we plan to use a form that's almost identical to the state's form that is for election. The state actually has a form that they share with counties can use. So we're planning to be very, very similar to that. We actually don't need to require personal registration, but if we don't, as a town, require personal registration, we're not allowed to offer absentee ballots. The only way to allow absentee ballots in town elections that are controlled by the town as opposed to by the county is with personal registration. We could opt, and we are allowed to, not require personal registration, which would allow people to be able to, if you voted in school board elections, there's a carve out in state election law for school districts that they do not have to maintain personal registration, but while all still offering absentee ballots, towns are not given that same ability. Don't know why, but schools are wing of the state, so I think they got a little more attention in the drafting of it. So we could opt to not have personal registration, but then we would not be able to offer absentee voting. And the recommendation in this resolution from our attorney is to try and keep things as close to regular, normal, typical elections as possible. So that's what I'm proposing here. The people who would be the election inspectors ultimately and manage the polls are the same people who already do it for regular general elections. They're trained and certified with the county. Maybe certified is not the right word. They're trained with the county. They're on a county list that's provided, and they'll be able to use the same county equipment that they're used to for regular elections. And yeah, so that's essentially what this resolution covers. Village Hall, Racker. It was recommended to have 2 polling places. The town of Manlius is a significantly larger community, 33,000 people. They anticipated having 1,500 show up and they got 6,000 in 1 polling spot. So the town supervisor was highly supportive of recommending 2 locations. And I think having 2 locations at diverse spots, the idea that we're all centralized in the village is just not true of the population spread of the town. And I think making, the village is at the very top end of our town. So making sure we have reasonable locations, 2 spots in the town seems appropriate.
Will people be able to choose a location, or will they be, depending on where they live, required to go to a certain location?
I believe they get to choose their location, but that is a granular elite level detail that I'm not, but my guess is I believe they're allowed to choose their location. Because we're not establishing districts. So, any other questions or any questions?
So this sets the date, the time, the locations,
How much is
some
this gonna
initial.
cost?
We had an estimate from that we used to fix our budget amount in 2023 was, it's about $1,600. It cost Groton to do it. The big cost is associated with the printing of the ballots. When I talked to Election Commissioner DeWitt, he thought that seemed like a reasonable amount. I said, well, we have budgeted 4,000. He said, I wish every town budgeted. And that budget it's an amount that we have in every year, and he thought we were doing a great job having that in there. So,
Especially since it hasn't been used.
right.
in
It,
recent memory.
no, and the reason I got a quote last year had nothing to do with running a special election. It had to do with the town becoming a primary town for the Democratic Party. Because under New York State election law, when the town became a primary town, if there's ever a primary challenge, the town will have to pay, not the party. The town will pay to run that election. So I got a quote connected to that. And that
Okay,
it was very
so
helpful,
can we move the
actually.
resolution?
For a second?
Second.
Oh, lots of seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okey-dokey. And re-levying of, if you go into your resolutions, your regular looking resolution. The third resolution down is the re-levying of Water District 3 delinquent fees. We do this every year at this meeting. This is anybody, if you haven't been paying your water bills, it goes onto your tax bill. And this year, for that amount, is $5,962.14.
How does that compare to other years?
I don't know. Krista?
I think it's fairly similar.
This is the one Krista sends me, one of her.
So is the sinking.
There's some people who pay their bills that way. We've found out. Yep. But this in fact, this re-levying is why the village wants the town to take over what are considered permissive service users, which means they're getting water from the village currently, but they're not in a formal water district, and the village has no way to levy the money. Town has the ability in formal districts to levy, so if you don't pay, it ends up on your tax bill. Okay, accept a motion to approve the
moved.
re-levying.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving on to a appointment of a permanent member of the planning board. So we are appointing, the motion would then be to appoint Bart, is it Greg? Greg, right, I had it spelled, but I was making sure I was pronouncing it correctly, Gragg.
G-R-E-G-G.
Oh, I had, oh, sorry,
A?
I had it as an A.
Well, it's in
Is it
my
in
phone.
Yeah, it's A, Greg.
It is? Oh, I have it in my phone, it's great. Where did you had to look it up?
Application, right?
Emails with them.
Okay.
To serve, so I'm just gonna move this. Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board appoints Bart Gragg to serve as a member to the planning board through December 31st, 2025. Is there a second? For discussion purposes, Mr. Gragg had been appointed to the planning board as an alternate, thought he was going to need to have to leave, resigned, and by leave the town, so therefore no longer being eligible, resigned, and is not having to leave. And so we're now appointing him. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then in the board packet and posted on the website, the healthcare consortium, of which we're a member of, needed to make basically, we need a resolution to approve the amendments that let me back up. We have previously approved the 2023 amendments. They're to the municipal cooperative agreement. And then it's my understanding that they had to be tweaked again. And our town attorney reviewed them. There's no substantive material change to the 2023 amendments. But the healthcare consortium is finding it a little bit challenging to work with some municipalities, because there were a lot of municipalities, to get the approvals necessary. Because in one tweak requires it to go back to everybody, if that makes sense.
Very unwieldy.
And what?
It's very unwieldy.
It is very unwieldy. So they put forth 2 requests for sample resolutions, an A and a B. And the A would give your appointed representative carte blanche to essentially truly more power than I personally want to approve and sign the contract, because they need to move these contracts along instead of the constant circling back. I don't think that's a good idea. I think our town board moves very effectively, very efficiently. There's no reason I would bring the contract back to you anyway. They're asking, this would be for a resolution to approve me to be able to sign the healthcare consortium contract basically on an annual basis. This would be for the one that's being brought to you now. Is resolution B. It's just for 2023 cooperative agreement signature. Again, I brought you the contract also, so I'm not trying to prevent you from reading the contract. This would give me the ability to sign through the rest of this year. If there's any other tweaks that would need to be made, I will bring you back them anyway. If there are, hopefully not, because these are contracts are mind-numbing. And then going forward, if the town board wanted to do this, we could include this as part of the organizational meeting. You could give me the authorization to sign for the rest of that year. And this is the kind of thing where in a lot of cases, you either sign and you are part of it, or you don't sign and you don't have it. It's not necessarily, it's not the negotiating phase. The negotiating phase should be happening with our representatives working with the healthcare consortium. By the time it comes to us, it's kind of like when you go to the bank and you sign paperwork to open an account. It's a yes or no. Are you joining us or are you not, kind of thing. So that's what this kind of convoluted resolution. If you're not comfortable with this resolution, you could also just simply approve the amendments or the 2023 amendment to the municipal cooperative agreement as has already been presented, and that could be just a one-off. This would give me a signing power through the end of this year.
Oh, I think you should easily have signing power. I mean, as the liaison to the health consortium.
And the change you're talking about here was just to
Mi-
take
mi-
off the town of Onondaga or
Yes.
something like
It's not-
that.
Yes.
They're minor little
Oh,
things.
little tiny,
Yeah, so I
3 words.
I endorse the resolution.
Okay. So I simply filled in the sample resolution with whereas the town of Ulysses and town of Ulysses and October 10th, 2023. That's the resolution being presented, and it'll just give me signing power through the end of the year. And then I would just bring this, if you're okay with it, if it makes sense, it sounds like it does. I'll bring it into the organizational meeting and we'll just establish it on an annual basis in 2024. Okay. So is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion or okay,
This is resolution B.
yes, yep. And I think I sent you just this one just today, by email also, but it was part of the board packet. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then Seneca Meadows landfill closure.
Yeah, so.
I didn't forget.
Okay. What I have here is a resolution that was put together by the CSAC committee. And, you know, I'm not asking you to approve it tonight because there's a lot of information on here. And we actually did a fair amount of research. I was approached by Yvonne Taylor from Seneca Lake Guardian to bring this before the board because they're, you know, the whole issue is very environmentally sensitive. The Seneca Meadows is the big landfill in Seneca Falls. Seneca Falls gets a lot of money from operating this, but there's a lot of odor, gas production, toxic leachate that gets trucked to other parts of New York State. And the landfill itself was supposed to be shut down in 2025, reach its capacity. And they're applying to keep it open into the future and beyond that. And building the landfill mountain there up an additional 70 feet. And I don't know if you've ever driven by that place, but
It's terrible.
it stinks. There's in fact, I think Ann Corman mentioned this. There's a lung cancer hotspot right around there.
Cancer
I
cluster.
think we're-
Cancer cluster. I
don't
couldn't
you
think of the
have to
name.
say-
Anyway,
I think we're good.
so CSAC put this together, and if you, I'd like to bring this up for a vote maybe next meeting.
Sure. I mean, I
Well,
would
you
vote
get
on
to
it
bring
tonight.
You want to
it
vote on
now.
it
I
tonight?
just read through it.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
Oh, okay.
I move the resolution.
No, I think there's been there's been quite a bit in the news. I appreciated hearing more about it at the last town board meeting.
Well, and Tompkins County has supported this resolution. Seneca County, City of Rochester, City of Skaneateles, City of Geneva. There's a lot of municipalities in the area that are concerned about this.
Mary, can you email that to me?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, let's vote.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you to CSAC. We appreciate that.
thank you.
Wow, that was easy.
If only everything was, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That brings us back to budget time.
Wait, Caitlin, before we do that, I just want to, Carl's the new member, the alternate to the planning board. I just want to introduce him to the town board.
Thank you so much for your service.
I'm relatively new to the town. I moved here 2 years ago. I'm one of your permanent lake residents
Wonderful.
down on Gannett Boulevard, so.
Excellent.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
So how did you
Thank you.
find Ulysses? So how did you end up out here? Just
My wife passed away a couple years ago, and my two daughters and I decided that I should relocate closer to one of them, so that when they have to deal with this old guy, it's easier. I used to be on the west side of Seneca Lake, and I have a daughter living in Ithaca.
All right.
That's a long drive out there, so we just decided to relocate.
well, if I could get you to talk to my mom, she lives in California and I'm still trying to get her. And she was like, I've seen the winters there, so not sold. At least you were already familiar with the weather. So, well, welcome. Thank you for your public service. Planning board's a great
Thank
board. They do great work for the town, so we're happy to have you join them.
Yeah, she's an alumna of the planning board.
I am. This could all be yours.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on
We are back on budget time.
budget, all right.
Do we want to finish up the community? We were talking about the community funding allocation recommendations. you want to finalize that?
Well, we got,
We got two of them, we're here.
3 of them.
Who's the
Um,
third?
We had,
The library, we have three.
oh, no, we had, so just tonight, we
After
had
school.
after school, we had Trumansburg Community Nursery School, and we had Winterfest.
And you had,
And she's,
she's on the board of the library.
and she's on, yes.
She's library too.
I would absolutely pass you the cookies.
Yes, for the cookies.
Okay, so the last place we left it was coming back up to the full allocation amount for Food Net Meals on Wheels and Gadabout.
2215, 2500.
Yeah.
And that puts us at about at a 4.3% increase over last year. Total allocations. Are we feeling comfortable there? Do you want to discuss anything more? Okay, so I know we have under the
for, what's the dollar amount?
Of increase?
Yeah.
Just over $2,000 and $30.
Okay.
2,035.
Well, for at least 2 of our applicants are still in the room. The current amount that the board is currently looking at allocating to your organizations, 1,000 for Winterfest and 1,750 for Trumansburg Community Nursery School.
$1,500 for the after school.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think
Because
you're
she's
allowed.
on it.
She's
Yeah.
gone. All right,
Okay, are we
Yeah.
ready to move on to other
Yeah.
parts of the budget?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I do know. Well, you got me, really. Yes, sorry. The change in appropriate in public.
I have 2 copies of the tentative budget packet. I'll wrestle over this.
Oh, yes.
Do you want one? I'm happy to make one.
We'll sit together.
Okay.
Sit there and explain it to me.
Well, actually, you know what?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, here, take this one.
Not mine.
Yes, it is.
It's hard to read.
No, it's okay.
It's hard to read in print form also, once you get to some of these pages.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of information there. It's been a challenge annually to try to get everything that needs to be on there, so. That, I'm done with my spiel about the A fund, if there's any. If there's any specific questions about the A fund, I'm happy to talk about them now. Went through the highlights.
seems like the dog licenses are a little light coming in.
I paid mine.
It's heavier in the second part of the year.
Yeah. All right, so you're comfortable with that? We're gonna get all the budgeted. Okay.
So for any members of the public watching or attending right now, there were line by line reviews held over 4 meetings in September. The budget as proposed is under the tax cap. We're one of the few municipalities who does that. Certainly last year, we were one of the few who did.
Incredible.
It's under the tax cap. The tax levy has
We didn't get
increased
the
because
second one,
largely
yeah,
due to
but
the
the first
value of
one.
property in Ulysses increasing. But the proposed budget is lowering the tax rate for both village residents and town outside village. But we all know that as our property values increase, that doesn't mean your taxes go down per se, but the rate goes down. And it's worth repeating, and it's in this packet. The town of Ulysses has the lowest tax rate in 2023 of any municipality in Tompkins County. So,
And we've been on the low side since I've been working here.
and we provide a lot more services than a lot of towns do, especially at our size. So, okay. How does everybody feel about A Fund? Feeling good about A Fund,
Okay,
or
fun's all right.
well, let's move along to B Fund.
Moving on to B funds, which starts on page
10.
10. So, features of the B fund include, there's a couple new account lines that you'll see, says new specifically on it. We're gonna start tracking certain expenses in a more defined way. Operationally, that makes sense, so you'll see that moving into 2024. And you also find the comp plan expenses in here. These are projected at this point based on the pace that we're moving through the comp plan process.
Michelle, I have
So-
a question
Sure.
about the attorney 1420.4. How come, when it looks like we're gonna end up with 45,000 in attorney fees, we're only budgeting 24,000 for next year?
So you'll see that includes one of those new lines below there.
So something that's shown up in this year, and it's a lot of it is related to increased activity of our planning board BZA. For instance, year before last, or I think last year, the BZA met twice. A lot more activity this year, and in part, we're seeing a lot more, and I think anecdotally, I think it's a reflection of pent-up demand during the pandemic and coming out of that and being a community that is desirable to settle in and build in and do development work. So we're seeing development requests, activities, demands, needs for engineering and legal oversight in numbers that we haven't seen in my time at the town. Again, my time in the town's not considerably long, but and what I'm seeing is that, for instance, the legal time associated with consideration of a potential development district at the end of Teganic, that's not a project that we previously, that's not an insignificant project. And so what I'm proposing specifically in the 2024 budget is that we allocate attorney time to, and it's not that we're giving the planning board of BZA this, that's not what it's for. It's not saying, here's your check to get to spend with the attorney. What it is that for projects that come before the planning board and the Board of Zoning Appeals, I'd like to more closely track that. The way it's currently tracked is it's just A fund or B fund attorney, and like that's real broad. And I can tell you that we're going to be moving into conversations starting in November about making sure that the way our zoning law is clearly spelled out and our application process are clearly spelled out. I want to see, I have no problem, obviously, like property owners have the right to request things. They have the right to request to have their projects reviewed. But at the same token, I really feel like developers, I personally feel developers should be paying for that review in a lot of cases when it's costing the town. It's one thing to subsidize, obviously, we subsidize our positions, our employed positions, because it's a service we need to provide to the town. But when we're only talking to the attorney because of one specific project being generated by, one specific development, I feel like those costs should start being borne by the applicant themselves. And so we're going to be having a very, very substantive conversation about right-sizing our fees to any number of things, but tracking costs associated with those particular boards. Also requests that those boards make for needing legal service or legal review or activities associated with that. I think it's going to give the town going into 2025 a much better idea of what's driving legal costs, because the attorney makes the most of anybody by far per hour in the town. So keeping tabs on that, and then engineering is second.
But so if you add the 8,000 from 1420.41 And 1420.4, you come up with 32K.
So one thing that we had to do in different periods of time is actually having the attorney attend meetings. We're going to try and limit that. If you'll notice, we, for quite a while, our attorney
Right.
last year was attending our meetings. We are not using that service anymore. It's not because we couldn't ask our attorney to attend meetings, but it's a cost savings to the town to not have him attend meetings if we don't feel there's really a substantive need for him to be in attendance.
I always wondered what he was doing here.
Yeah.
What he was doing here or why he went away?
But,
No, what
Why
he
he
was
was
doing
out of
here.
meeting.
It's like,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, yeah. they
we
used to
weren't
drive-
asking for any kind of legal advice.
They used
You
to
just-
drive from Ithaca and bill us their travel time.
A lot of municipalities keep their attorneys
Yeah.
present, and a lot of attorneys are on retainer.
Right.
So that's a
But,
service.
you know, the village never does. Their
Um,
attorneys, not.
Right, Covert does though. Covert's attorney attends all their meetings. It's
It's
Anyway,
covert. He
Do you
probably
think,
makes,
do you
you know,
think, given what you
$100
want,
an hour.
this is the attorney line for the B fund. We also have one for the A fund.
yes.
So you're comfortable with 32,000 being enough in that two lines to
Um,
cover the,
So one of the drivers in this year also was Camp Bar. And there was time and an effort
Right.
that the town contributed and the review process of getting
Right.
Camp Bar. That's not, now the LDC has its own attorney.
right,
And so having the town attorney involved in that is probably not
okay.
where this number might, we might end up having to do an adjustment is if an unexpected project comes up that we can't anticipate. And that's really, this number reflects what I think, a managed, approach with reducing legal time attending meetings of the planning board, or not really planning board, it's more BCA. I would like to rein in basically legal costs next year. I think it's
Per our
necessary.
previous discussion about enforcement, where are those attorney fees?
So that would be in here under the, well, when you say planning board of BZA, it really is just planning and zoning. That really should be the line in there. It's
Okay.
really planning and zoning because it's being triggered through there. So that would come, that could come out of, frankly, could be attributed to either one. Or maybe no, it's not. Just leave it. Sorry.
Okay.
It would come out of the CE line. The idea with zoning enforcement is that a lot of zoning enforcement in the town's time, in my time with the town has only taken one applicant to court. And the cost the taxpayers put in to essentially prosecuting that case was recaptured in fees. And that really should be how we're working if we're triggering the attorney and going into a court situation. I want to make sure we're being, like we have our case well built so that we're setting the town up. If you're going to spend that kind of money, to try and win and recoup fees. So my goal would be that essentially that our zoning enforcement, when we go to court, is essentially cost neutral. It just might not be recaptured till the following year, but we were able to capture it in the same year for the previous zoning enforcement. So you have some upfront costs, but with the intention that you're going to get money back. This is my hope that we can do this with the B fund. And I think if we have no surprise exterior pushing activities, it will work. And I think it will also work if we have to adjust this in budget modifications and we're adjusting it with revenue. For instance, we need to pay our attorney to do 10 hours worth of work related to specific development project, but we're also capturing that money through an escrow account with the developer. That kind of offset. So I'm hoping a budget modification, if necessary, to this can be offset by revenue.
Speaking of revenue, B2401. Interest and earnings. We're projecting $99,316 for interest and earnings. And we're budgeting only 5,000 for.
It's the same thing in the A fund.
Yeah,
So-
so, this so they're treated differently. The end of year projection is treated differently than the budget. For the end of year projection, what we've invested in reserves is accounted for in there because of the way that we have to calculate fund balance. So we include reserve interest in our end of year projection. Reserve interest is not included in the budget for next year because it's gonna, any interest with the reserves are gonna stay with the reserves, so we can't. If we were going to show it with reserve and fund balance, we would show it as appropriate, or I'm sorry, in the appropriation column, adding that interest into reserves. We just zero it out so we don't have to do that calculation twice. It's a data management thing more than anything.
Okay.
So end of year projection includes reserve interest.
Which
2024
goes
budgets.
into the reserve, so it doesn't show up as an income.
Correct.
Okay.
But we do it at the end of year projection because the way we calculate fund balance, it comes out in the wash.
The two line items up above the interest and earnings for zoning and planning fees. That's really all we've left in the planning and zoning fees this year.
Yep. Yeah, we had a conversation during our line by line in the B fund about aggressively increasing the fees in this department.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of time, like on the,
Yep.
on certain applications, the planning board and the zoning board of appeals are spending way more time.
Yeah.
Staff especially are spending more
Yeah.
time on other applications. I think we should be taking a look at that, and the bigger the application, the higher the fee.
Absolutely. Well, you have a planner who fully agrees with you.
That's-
Our
that's
fees
really
are too low. And also and that's why we're gonna be doing, so the fees are established at the organizational meeting. So that's why in November, we're looking, after this gets kind of situated, I've made it very clear, we have to be driving more revenue through fees, through these discretionary actions. You're doing a big project, like, it needs, the costs are too far behind. I think where we've gotten in trouble is there were years where the fees weren't increased, combined with when fees are compared. I'm not, and I'm gonna be very clear, I'm not trying to nickel and dime the property owner who needs to replace their door or their window or whatever.
No,
But
it should be
we-
comparable to the size of the project.
But if you're doing $1.5 million worth of renovation on a building, like, that takes a lot of time, and is it appropriate? Or if you're doing a big development project, is the fee appropriate? And so, having a very clear, understanding of where our comparables are. Quite honestly, our comparable really is in the town of Danby, and I very much like town of Danby. It's a beautiful town. That's not our comparable. It's been recommended that we look at places like the Village of Pittsford, our Fairport, town of Pittsford, and some places in closer to downstate, Albany area, of places that are seeing the kind of development we're seeing. We're seeing higher and more expensive development that's taking more
So
time.
we're gonna put that on you're gonna present that in November?
So in November, after we kind of get this done, the staff are gonna take a hard look. And so we're gonna make some proposals as part of the organizational meeting agenda that'll go out in December.
Okay.
So, because I want to pass these higher costs on to the people doing the development.
For sure.
So,
As far as the general natural resources CE here, that is up because of the water, source water.
Where are we now?
It's in B 8790.4. Page 10.
Yeah, that's
Under planning.
That's included in there, and so is the tree committee, which had a higher request this year.
Oh, okay, so was that fully funded, the tree and the,
Yep, in this version.
Water.
the budget is-
okay,
The tree committee requested money for more pruners to be,
yeah, they want to do a
Certified.
master pruner
yeah,
uh,
and
program and
do street trees and Smith.
plant some trees,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about too thoroughly, but I'll just say that I mentioned it earlier in our earlier session that when I started as budget officer, I started tracking the proportion of sales tax distributed to the A, B, DA, and DB fund. And I wanted to make it steady year after year, so it wasn't fluctuating. We weren't dealing with this back and forth of ups and downs for that revenue stream. So for the past couple of years, we've been keeping that proportion consistent. We need to start increasing the proportion of sales tax that goes to the B fund. So I just want to make that, just want to point that out that you'll be seeing that at a higher rate in 2025.
And that's because,
The B fund, you know, based on the operations, you know, that fund is growing. You know, there's more demand, and there's more enforcement as well, relative to 5 years ago.
And we're hoping to offset that by revenue, but that's, sometimes it will be a situation of that's catching it, it will catch itself up. You know, like the enforcement might happen in 1 year, and so you need the money in that year, but the revenue's doesn't end up coming until the following year, so.
And of course, the comp plan is in the B fund for 2025, so 2024.
does it have its own line?
It does have its own.
Oh, yeah, comp plan C.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's not the total cost of the project, we just put a number in there, and essentially the plan to pay for the comp plan is that we have 50% funding from DEC, relative to the budget that was submitted, but we'll likely be we'll be using appropriated fund balance to offset it, at least if we go over budget in 2024. But the pace of that is really hard to figure out at this point, so you might be seeing budget modifications in 2024.
No, I think that's pretty much a promise, yeah. So it's an important project, so we're moving forward. Any other questions or thoughts on B fund? If not, we can move on to the DA fund. This is the highway fund. One of the highway funds.
So I have a general kind of question about the DA versus DB. So is it the state law that determines, or town law determines what goes into DA versus DB?
That's my understanding of it.
Because, you know, the village, DA includes the village. And DB is the town outside the village. And, you know, like, so snow removal is in the DA fund, but the village has its own, you know, plowing crew.
Right.
So it's kind of weird that it's being paid out of the DA fund. And I'm just wondering, is there any kind of reciprocity with like use of equipment?
Oh, I know
You
that
know what
our
I mean?
highway department does share equipment. I mean, I know that, for instance, when the JV soccer field at the school needed dirt hauled, topsoil hauled in because it kind of got destroyed. Not kind of, it got destroyed as part of the construction property. Yeah, I know, there was no kind of about it, it's destroyed. The village and the town both worked, their highway departments both worked to haul in a cooperative fashion. I know there's an exchange, I know that Scott, and Scott will be with us at the next town board meeting. So, and yeah, I think he'd be happy to answer that. I know there's reciprocity between I know that the DPW and the highway department have a very, very cordial, good working relationship.
I think there's a lot of, let's see. I think there's a lot of logic to the way that the comptroller office separates things out. The only thing that really makes so much sense to me is that, well, whatever. The thing that is really clear is, you know, the maintenance of bridges is in the DA fund. Villages can't own bridges. So that is the one that's really clear. The rest to me is like, you know, I'm not quite sure how the decisions were made, but it's.
brush and weeds, you know, I
Wait,
mean,
DA is outside the village or?
it's
Inside.
inside.
DA
It
is
includes
inside the
town.
So
village.
that's
including
like
the
a
village.
lot of stuff.
It is. And the other thing
I
I'll
mean,
say,
it's a
is
bigger
Right.
that,
budget.
that
by
the
100,000.
village residents have to travel outside, you know, it's not like they're, you know, so I think that's the other logic in my head that I'm like, okay, I get that sort of, you know, that,
You can't leave the village unless you leave on a county or town road.
right.
So,
And
and you
that
can't
would-
cross any water either unless you're
Yeah,
crossing
but
somebody
the
else's
DA
bridge.
is outside, is inside. the village.
Inside.
Well,
But
this is-
includes the
no,
village.
It's
Includes the
town,
village.
including the village.
But you're right,
So,
they get socked for their own snow removal in the village
oh yeah,
tax.
you know, our tax rate is like way higher than the town. The
Right.
village tax rate
Yeah.
is like, what, $7.50 per thousand or something like that?
So.
I mean, it's kind of nutty.
The one thing I'll say is that, Mary, your question is such a big one that if we, you know, we can put it on the finance committee to really dig into. If we wanna really investigate that question and drill into each line and really make sure, you know. Is a big question.
But you're right, the DA fund shouldn't be paying for village, people in the village for snow removal when they have their own village snow removal.
But the logic is, you know, they have to leave, you know, on town.
On
Yeah,
county
county
roads.
roads.
I don't know.
Seems a little
And
stretch.
but vice versa, the state law requires that says that a village can't own a bridge. Guess what? We get who administered the grant in
Yeah.
in the village, or, you know, it was us. So there's probably lots of gray zones that go
Right.
back and forth around all this stuff, so.
And just to be clear for the public who's listening, we don't pick which services go into A and like B fund and inside, you know, the town, including village and town outside village. So, yeah, it's not discretionary from the town standpoint.
The
There's,
comptrollers,
it's a comptroller, it's established by the state
all these
comptroller.
line items are set by the comptroller.
But that doesn't mean it's not worth, if the finance committee wants to do that, I think that's, I don't disagree with you. There's no.
But if you're going into Ithaca, you got, you know, you're going through the village, so, you know, I mean.
No, I don't have to. But I do.
But she does pay county taxes, so.
But she
I
doesn't
do
pay
have-
village tax.
I do have to now because 96 is closed and I don't wanna go that way, so I go that way.
But the villages center of commerce, they get a lot of sales tax. So there's lots of, you know, this whole,
Except the sales
Society
tax
thing.
is not allocated based on your sales. It's based on total county sales. So.
I thought for some reason it was within.
No, it always, so the city of Ithaca has its own
Oh,
tax rate. But the other municipalities in Tompkins County share the tax that's collected based on a population.
Okay.
So, you know, like the town of Ithaca has very little commerce, but they get a huge amount of taxes, sales tax, because
Anywhere, because I've always heard that the formula is really complicated, which is why it took so long to get it from the county, but have you ever seen it laid out?
I've never seen it laid out, but years ago, and maybe it's not like this, but things don't seem to change along those lines. But I was talking to the town supervisor, of the town of Ithaca, and he said that they brought in a ton of sales tax money.
Oh.
At the same time that they have very little commerce. And the way that it works, well, when you file a sales tax return, there's the city of Ithaca, and
Right.
that's, you break it out on your report to the
Right,
state,
that is the county.
and that's because.
Because they have an extra sales tax, right?
No, it's just there's it, so if you buy something in Ithaca, like at Wegmans, that's taxable, that sales tax goes to the city of Ithaca.
Mm.
If you buy something in Trumansburg or in Lansing,
It doesn't necessarily.
it doesn't necessarily go to Trumansburg and Lansing. It goes into a big pot
Cool.
that's allocated, not based on the sales in that location, but the population.
All right.
It's crazy.
All right, let's move on.
Anyway,
So, in the DA fund, in 2024, we're following the capital plan. Which is, we have the 3 out of 3 payment for the 10-wheeler that is yet to be delivered. Last Scott heard was soon, whatever that means. We're gonna be using reserves to offset the cost of a new piece of equipment. So that's all represented there. And this is all per the capital plan that hasn't changed since the last time you got a printout of it. I'm happy to print that out if there's anybody who's interested in it. The purchase that that is in that, besides the year 3 payment, is a case loader that we're gonna be trading in. And that's on a 3-year cycle because of how good of a deal we get on that, and that's a heavily used piece of equipment. Also in this fund is the grant that we got from the DEC to do the engineering report for that set of culverts. So that's represented in there. You also see a transfer to the HA fund, the Curry Road Fund, for the local match of the Curry Road replacement, the Bridge New York. So those are the big highlights in the DA fund.
On the DB, can we go to the DB fund now? So third DB 7501, I guess, New York State CHIPS.
Yep.
Tentative budget 153,000, even though my end of year projection is 111.
Yeah, so this is, so Scott can speak to this a little bit better than I can. He manages the CHIPS reimbursement, and so the way that we've done it the past couple of years is that we've put in a lower number in the budget. And once he gets his paving plan 100% squared away, we have rollover CHIPS funds that he can increase the budget by. So essentially what he's doing is saying, all right, this is what I know I'm gonna do. And that chip, that 153 represents CHIPS. There's always some extra money that comes through Pave New York, EWR, which is extreme weather. There's a pothole one. So there's all these funding pots associated with local roads in the state budget. So that 153 is just CHIPS. And so.
But the modified budget for 2023
Mhm.
was 246,000.
Right.
that include other occasional fund amounts that come to New York State.
Yeah.
That's such a discrepancy between the EOY.
Right, so he
100,000.
changed his plan. Essentially, he was saying that he was gonna take full advantage of all that funding, but instead it's just gonna get rolled over to the next year. The big picture is that, and this is a little bit half-baked, and since Scott's not here, I'm gonna do my best, but Scott found out at the last, he's heard it a couple times, but he really started thinking about it at the last conference he was at, where CHIPS can actually pay for equipment. So he's sort of squirreling money in the hopes to pay for a piece of equipment in the future that is on the capital plan, but at this point we're sort of reserving CHIPS, or it's CHIPS that would pay for that, so.
I think CHIPS is our only revenue source that's like this, which is, it's basically a savings account, but it's with New York State. Sort of.
It rolls
It rolls
over,
over.
it rolls over, yeah, and it's not indefinitely rolled over,
Right.
you have to use it at a certain date.
So how much do we have in reserve to roll over?
So I have a letter upstairs that I could go get if you want, but I don't know off the top of my head what it
You
is.
have a letter?
Yeah, the state sends you a
The
letter.
statement, basically.
Like, here's how much it is, here's your rollover balance.
I'm just confused by the discrepancies in the budget and the end of year projection, where the 153 is gonna come from. If we're only getting 111 for the end of the year.
So the end of year projection is the 111. And
Right.
we're, Scott right now as a tentative paving plan for next year is saying 153. And we have that 153 coming in from state aid, but there's rollover, there's a
Did you
rollover
get the
balance.
letter?
Yeah, I'll go get it.
Let's see.
Well, because we had the budget, we had up to 246,598
Right.
to spend. He actually is only spending 111,000,
Right,
so the rest is going to be rolled over.
Oh, so what you put in the budget is what you're gonna spend, not what you actually get from New York State chips, right?
So, well, no, he's gonna get, the end of the year projections,
Yeah.
111,716, look at that, like, that's New York State money. He doesn't spend money in this line that he doesn't have. So he develops his work plan based on how much money is available, but what he's trying to do is stockpile some of that money, with the idea being that he could do a purchase upgrade instead of paving per se.
So does that money stay with New York State or does he put it in the?
It stays with New York State, but it's basically allocated to us as
Okay.
rollover funds. And again, Scott is going to be here with us at our next town board meeting, because my plan is to bring to you we've already had the public hearing. My plan is to bring the adoption of the DPW to the next town board meeting, and Scott will be here for that. So I think that it's those are great detailed questions for him that Michelle and I can.
because this is only about $40,000, it looks like, in terms of rollover balance.
So
Am I
the
reading
difference
that right?
between the budgeted amount
Yeah,
for 2023 and our end of year projection, that will all roll forward.
So that difference is, let's see, what is that?
136,000?
Yeah.
Roughly. And how much does the letter say is there?
total balance and then cumulative rollover balance, is that what we're looking at? That's
Yeah.
only about 40,000.
No, the cumulative, so
So that adds
you
up.
have to take the cumulative rollover balance and then the savings of what we're not spending this year.
So this year, we're not spending $134,882
I see.
plus the cumulative rollover balance.
Okay, I don't quite get it, but
We could ask Scott to,
But he's gonna be, as I was saying, he's gonna be at our next town board
Okay.
meeting, because we're gonna be picking up the DPW law.
Mm.
So he's coming to the meeting on the 24th.
Yeah.
And I will,
I
Tell
think
him-
we really need to understand this in layman's language,
Mhm.
so we can explain it to the public. This is the first I've heard of it in 10 years,
what?
this rollover balance.
Oh,
the
well,
chip
yeah,
fund.
I
They
mean, it
always
happens,
spent it, right?
no,
No?
nope, not always maxed out, no.
because sometimes projects, because I mean, at least Scott, I can't speak for any of the previous supervisors, superintendents, wanted to stay under that threshold. So it makes sense that there's always, you don't want to exceed it.
Right,
So always coming in, so that means it turns out to typically be a savings every year, just. And Scott is looking at this, and he can, as Michelle said, he can go into this, he's looking at this because he's learned from other highway superintendents, you are allowed to use this for equipment purchase, which would help it. And from a budgeting standpoint, could help us really smooth the budget, as opposed to having these jump years, or necessarily, we could essentially use it as to some degree, kind of a dedicated reserve.
except we need this money to fix the roads and pave, that's what I'm.
We have we have great, I mean, I think our highway department's doing a great job. The roads in the town of Ulysses that are in rough shape aren't ours, they're county roads. So,
Yeah, so there is a capital plan and a paving,
Right.
there's a paving plan and a culvert replacement plan that this all fits in with.
but Scott is looking forward.
So in 10 years, like, I feel like that it happens every year where, because you learn, like we're learning in these
Right.
positions that we're in, and you've learned so much about town law and town, like town processes, and we just have a greater capacity with continuity around what we're understanding,
Right,
so.
it's- yeah.
So I'll have him talk about his CHIPS plan
Okay,
at the next town board meeting. I can hear him cheering.
And I'll be excited because that means that we get to talk about our multi-year plan a little bit more. more developed way.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so B fund, at DB fund, any other questions about DB fund?
Brings us to fire protection and EMS.
Yep, so we've,
But the least amount of control over this one.
yep, and with, I think most of us were at that meeting, so I think we know the dynamics here.
And you're gonna, the billing, ambulance billing revenue, you're gonna work with
Joel.
Joel to
Mhm.
maximize that.
Yep, I still have a couple questions that I haven't had time to because of budget season, but my next step with him is to really, he has a resource, a legal resource that helps him figure out the max that insurance companies will pay out. So I want to engage with him on a specific line items to ensure that we're charging the max. And of course, that has to be paired with making sure our forgiveness policy or hardship policy is really put out there. So those two things have to happen at the same time.
And I'm also, typically we set these, well, we set these fees in January, but because the village operates on a different year
Right.
than we do, the plan moving forward is to make it biannual. So, the biannual where it happens twice a year. So we can look at EMS fees, possibly tweaking them, both in January and in July.
Okay.
Because we've been behind the
Right.
ball every time,
Right.
and they're not ready to tell us their new fees in
Yeah,
December.
that's a good idea.
So,
All right, so moving along to the water districts. Water districts 1, 2, and 4 are very small relative to all the other funds, so we put them on one page. They're very simple. They're in and outs. Water District 1 does levy a little bit more, some taxes for a repair reserve that we're squirreling away money for in a legal reserve. But the rest really are truly in and out funds, so nothing major of note here. Water District 3, this will be the last. I feel like there should be like a
Definitely should have
a confetti cannon or something like that. This is 2024 is the last year of the debt, the 20-year debt payment,
20 or 30 year.
30-year debt repayment, excuse me.
Well, we're gonna have to get cake.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, something. And let's see, we have, there's a project coming up in 2024 that the state is requiring a lead service inventory. We have some money set aside for some admin support there and just general admin support. We're increasing the contingency because we shifted around, like every year we budgeted for a fire hydrant. We have a stock fire hydrant in case there's, the most likely scenario is a car accident knocks out a hydrant, we have to replace it. We always have one on hand, and we put that in the budget every year. We decided to just put that in contingency so that you'll see there's an increase in contingency because there's a couple items like that and as a practice for the past couple of years, I've been using contingency directly offset by appropriated fund balance. That seems like a logical thing to do instead of levying taxes for the unknown, like a fire hydrant replacement. So we have a draft 2024 work plan for 2023 rather that includes the lead pipe inventory project I just discussed and that state required and updated policies. And a note that the cost per 1,000 gallon for Water District 3 is based on the rate that we passed along from Town of Ithaca and some O&M fees per 1,000. The rate per 1,000 gallons for Water District 3 is going to be $10.84. I'm happy to say that we're adding some money to reserves in the 2024 budget. That feels really good. All of the Water District 3 reserves are underfunded. So that's great news, while still being able to decrease the overall tax levy in that district. So
So those reserves would be, so is it a break or something?
Yeah, so there's a repair reserve, we're saving for a truck or a vehicle for that district. And also a capital reserve, which functions as like a financing tool for planned renovations versus emergency repairs. Those are my highlights for this fund.
Okay. Good job, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's not forget my favorite fund of all, the HA fund. This is the Curry Road culvert replacement. Very excited about this. This is just a multi-year total guess. This is not going to be how it looks. But we want to put something in there to make it clear to the public that this project actually isn't going to affect the tax levy because it's the majority of it is funded by the state aid. So
And that we're looking at 2025 for construction.
if we're lucky,
Okay.
I'm guessing 2026.
Alright.
Yeah, we'll see. They're moving faster than I thought they were going to, so that's for the DEC.
Yep.
But I mean,
That's hard to be slower at this
I'm
point, though.
not gonna sing praises for DOT at this point, but we are thankful for the money. That this next piece here, the page 20 is the exemption impact report, which is required by law. This is compiled by the county. And then there's some stuff, there's some historic figures after the exemption report that I personally find intriguing. And some taxable assessed value history. So
We really only. The exemption codes on the second page, the 41,800, we really only have 108 people in the town claiming exemptions for over 65.
Oh, that's a low end, it's probably a low income exemption.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's,
Yeah.
so you
Not
have
just
to have a
income
pretty low
threshold.
income.
Income plus being over 65.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. That's low.
So, Rich, I think probably what would be helpful is this, on page 22, the section that talks about the fiscal context supplemental materials. For the preliminary budget, I can put in our reserve balances. I can put a table in there for reserve balances.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have the unappropriated fund balance.
Did you need to make changes to that document,
Oh,
or to the resolution?
I can send you the laundry list of what I have.
Okay. That would be great.
Okay.
Go ahead. Is that me, Carissa?
Mhm.
And then maybe you can just read it for us.
Mhm.
Okay, well, this is a very exciting moment. I'm very grateful to the town board members who put a lot of time into this. This is the resolution under, the first resolution under old business is changes to the 2024 tentative budget, adoption of the 2024 preliminary budget, and setting the public hearing. And so this kind of gives out the timeline. We had a special meeting today, and we've had previous meetings in the regular meeting. And then Michelle's gonna read out the changes from when the original tentative budget was submitted, the changes we've made tonight, and the alterations related to healthcare that she made and then presented to us tonight. So what are our changes?
So the changes between what you have in your hand and what will be represented in the preliminary budget are a decrease in the A fund contingency, A 1990.4, and an increase to offset that in community organization funding in the following lines. A 6772.4, programs for the aging, A 7989.4, culture CE, and then A 8030.4, stream research CE. There'll also be a decrease in 9060.8 in the A, B, DA, and DB funds do the updated information on 2024 health insurance rates and staff insurance updates. And then Water District 3 water units were updated between the version that you were with tonight and what Chris had eaten.
So those are the changes, and so it would be therefore resolved that the town board accepts the preliminary budget for 2020, I'm sorry, the plans to be the preliminary budget for 2024. Sorry about that, as presented at the 10/10/2023 regular meeting of the Ulysses Town Board, with a 4.55% increase in the tax levy and a minus 6.51 tax rate decrease for town residents outside the village of Trumansburg, and a 7.38% levy increase and a minus 3.35 tax rate decrease for village of Trumansburg residents. And further resolved that the town board hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of hearing public comments on the town of Ulysses 2024 preliminary budget. So I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So upcoming events, we'll have a special town board meeting starting at 6 p.m. Next, on October 24th at our next regular meeting. So in advance of our next regular meeting, we will be meeting, the planning board and BZA may also, we're going to schedule it as special meetings for them as well. If they don't have a quorum present, then it doesn't trigger a special meeting. We'll have our regular town board meeting starting at 7 that day. The following day, on the 25th of October, the Three Falls LDC in partnership with New York State Parks we'll be having an informational meeting on the acquisition of Camp Barton. That's going to be held at Trumansburg Village Hall at 7 p.m. And then right now, October 9th is a Thursday. There's going to be a public information session on the recreation land acquisition at Trumansburg Fire Hall from 6:30. I'm sorry, no, what did I say?
October.
That is definitely not October. It was definitely not last night. I apologize. November 9th. We're going to do a public information session on the land acquisition at the Trumansburg Fire Hall. It will be a town board meeting if there are enough of you who are interested in attending. So I will poll you before the next meeting to determine whether or not we need to advertise that. It's a Thursday. Can't do Wednesdays. This is a Thursday, and Tuesday is election day. So Thursday. And then the following day, the town hall will be closed for Veterans Day. Or Veterans Day observed.
Caitlin,
Yes.
what is the October 24th special town board meeting for?
It's going to be a meeting to hear from the planning board and BZA related to training policy. Niels is going to talk to you about doing a joint, scheduling it as a joint public meeting. So I spoke to him today and he's gonna talk to you tomorrow. We were here this afternoon after. That brings us to minutes. We had 3 sets of minutes to consider. The special meeting on September 12th, the regular meeting on September 12th. I'm sorry. 27, I'm sorry,
Well, not the
12th and the 14th.
not the 14th.
Yeah.
So start cross that one out, sorry. 12th, and 26th.
26.
So is there a motion to approve as amended with the elimination of September 14th?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, so
The 14th was the fire and EMS.
that's right, yes,
The budget.
the
meeting
budget
that
meeting was
day.
canceled.
Yeah.
That's right. I was gonna say, I was like, I thought I did it correctly. It was the fire and EMS meeting. We did have a quorum there. Okay,
So I will move that we approve those minutes.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
There were a lot of meetings in those 2 weeks. Whew, it was a lot of public meetings. There's a conference.
And there's a lot coming up.
Yay! Well, I've had 2 today, you know, knock them out. There were 52 in my first year on the town board. That was a lot. That's too many. Okay, moving on to, I don't have any board notifications. Budget modifications. Happy to have Michelle here.
A lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
That time of year.
Yeah, and through budget season, it was really difficult for me to wrap my head around, like finding time to do that. But
So we haven't had any for a while. Couple months, I think.
yeah.
Sorry. Tired and hungry. So, Michelle's and I are here to, answer any questions. Big movements around in, number 4, it's all moving money around with youth and with youth programming, because when we originally budgeted, we thought we'd be in a contract. And we haven't been in contract and won't be in 2023 at all. And so it's just moving around the money that had already been allocated for youth development. Attorney,
Summer camp staff, increased staffing costs, but we should get that back from revenue, right?
so it was offset by the recovery grant that helped, the Tompkins County Recovery Grant. So, and if you look at 3, we increased staffing costs, and then the next line down in grants for local
Oh, I
governments,
see.
we got money from Tompkins County.
But 11,000 increase in number 4. We didn't get that back, did we?
So yeah, the county, in 4, there are 3 different allocations, or there are 3 different lines. And this is all money that we're moving around. So, we spent more money in YEP this year because we didn't write a check to, Cornell Cooperative. So this is all youth development money, and it's just moving which pot. It's all within the budget itself. We didn't go outside of our budget for youth development. We just didn't spend it with Cornell Cooperative this year. And the Youth Commission was very supportive of the fact that there was, and I don't know if you remember, but when Ethan came and spoke just over a year ago, he was seeing delayed ability to provide services because
Right.
of COVID. And so we considered, and the Youth Commission considered this as a catch-up year. And now we can just move forward, having caught up that cohort essentially, and not because we didn't provide services essentially in that for a couple of years almost. Because we just couldn't have youth employed at all in 2020, and 2021 was really tough. So now we feel like we caught them up, and now we're gonna be able to go back to normal. We're projecting the regular numbers, which are closer to 10 to 11 students in the summer positions. And now it might be more, you might end up with more students or fewer students depending on hours, but that's kind of the estimate. Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve the budget modifications as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then payment of audited claims. Handy dandy paper saving, yet enlarged print. For the public, I will fill in the blanks for the agenda packet. I'll move this. Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board has reviewed and approves payments of claims for vouchers number 404 through 437 in the amount of $45,640.45. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us back to privilege of the floor. Get my clock going. We'll start in the room. Is there anyone in public in the room with us who wishes to address us on a matter before the town? Or either of them?
I do.
Okay,
Can you explain a little bit more about the personal registration for a special meeting? I think that's it's confusing the folks that were sitting around with me, so I volunteered to stick around.
so no, I can't tonight. That's gonna be described more in detail at the next town board meeting. We'll actually have processes to share with the public.
Okay.
Basically, if you are registered to vote with the town, or I'm sorry, if you're registered to vote with the Board of Elections, you don't need to do anything.
Okay, that was the big question.
If you are not registered with the Board of Elections, you are still eligible to register with the town.
Yeah.
Registering with the town does not have you register with the county. But if you're already registered with the county, you don't need to do anything. We'll end up taking that polling book essentially, those records, and so as long as you're registered there, you're good to go. But if somebody isn't registered with the county, we'll have, we'll establish at the next, probably at the next town board meeting, I believe, the Board of Registration, I believe is the right term, and that's why I don't want to go too far into details. The Board of Registration, the members of the Board of Registration will come from the list from the county of who are, you know, the electioneer qualified people.
Right.
And they will establish a couple of dates, or we will establish a couple of dates on their behalf that they will work, and then anybody who wants to register, who's not already registered with the county, can register with the town. And then the town moving forward will maintain those records as well.
No, that's fine. I think the confusion was whether our county voting registration would work, because the way it was stated in the resolution, it sounded like you had to person. Or
No.
that was an interpretation you could take. Yeah.
So from a
No,
New York
that's
State
fine.
standpoint, if the town has to actively adopt the county's list as an acceptable list, but it doesn't preclude your ability to vote in a town election otherwise.
Right.
So,
No, that makes sense. That's great. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to say is, and regarding the Teganic Inn resolution that came from the planning board. Besides that resolution, there was a lot that we learned about development districts. And that I think it's important that we kind of had to ignore in the process so that we could just address the issue that was at hand. That I think would be really good to talk. And I'm not sure where it belongs, whether it belongs in the comp plan, but it's regarding zoning around development districts and what you need to be careful of when those are written up, because there's just so many issues. Lately seems like we
I could
no
agree with you more.
idea.
Well, I'm not naming what development district it is, but we have a development district that actually specifies the names of people who can live on one of the approved residences on that property.
Oh, God.
And we had an attorney who said, so if we had someone who showed up and changed their name, then they could have a residence on that property, because it's just ludicrous,
Yeah,
so.
right, yeah,
Just as a fun example.
yeah, and that's a great one. The other one is the Teganic Inn one that I noticed, because they're bordered by parkland all around, right? In the district, in the zoning for it, it says that, you know, if the development or the business district is next to a residential area or something like that, you have to have a 30 foot buffer. Otherwise, it's 15 foot. So that means for the parkland, they can go up to 15 foot. And being a hiker or it's pretty disconcerting when you're walking through the woods or a park or something like that. All of a sudden come a big hotel, which could potentially be the thing that you're coming on. So I don't see that you could call a park any different than somebody living next door to you, really.
Yeah.
Because it's just the public's living there, not just, and more people living there than there is in the house. I mean, those kinds of things. You know, there's just one that stuck up in my mind right away. But there were a lot of them that I think we saw from it, and I know Rich was involved with a lot of the conversations that we were having too. One other thing was using You know, I saw in the budget that there was a budget for the planning board around funding, because we talked about, one of the concerns was the proposal that they made about a single large building versus multiple smaller buildings, which is a better, which has a better environmental impact. We don't really know, you know, we based it on the trust that when the zoning was created, there was some wisdom attached to it that a smaller footprint would be better for it. But is that really true? If they're gonna get the same square footage with multiple buildings, is it better to have a bigger, one single bigger one or a smaller one? And I think it's a great question, you know?
Yeah.
And I think before we vote, we want to get an answer to that.
Yeah.
I think that it would be really helpful if the planning board put, I'm saying this, not about the Antigonic, I'm saying this about what you discovered about development districts and idiosyncrasies, because I think documents seem great, like zoning is a plan, right? And it may seem great when you're crafting it in, you know, in a vacuum, but then you go out into the real world and they're like, oh, well, this literally doesn't make any sense. I know our planners discovering that all over the place in our 202 pages of zoning. But it's clear that the planning board has run into these, and actually if it could be put into a letter or in a brainstorming session, I think it'd be really helpful to present to the comprehensive plan steering committee and a copy for the town board to have, because unfortunately this information is sometimes lost.
Yeah.
And you think about it, it was great, and even taking 15-20 minutes in a meeting of like, these are some teeth, like just like you said,
Yeah.
I would really appreciate it. So we don't lose all that investigative research essentially that you've done.
Yeah, right, that's what I don't wanna do, because, yeah, until you stumble over it, you know, just reading it. You
It
don't
doesn't-
see it,
exactly.
yeah, you don't have it until you know, walk around the country.
Right. This doesn't make any sense. Right. So let's see what we can fix. So
Yeah,
that would be really
that's a
helpful.
good idea.
I'd appreciate that.
But yeah, I'll bring it up with her.
And I'll mention to the planner as well, but I think that'd be really great to get your insights.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I don't know if.
nope, you're all by
Okay.
yourself, the planning board.
Rebecca was on, so yeah, I know and I know she's on the comprehensive plan, so I have total faith that some of these things will get brought up there.
I have total faith too, except sometimes stuff slips through the cracks, not just because people are busy and someone misses a meeting or, you know?
Right.
So, if the planning board would be willing to spend a little time to do that, I'd be deeply grateful.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
That's it.
Right.
Wonderful, thank you, Linda. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Yes, Mr. Cohen.
Could you unmute?
I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I missed the first part of the meeting, so I don't know what was discussed regarding the special election. But I want to pick up on the same question the previous speaker raised about the personal registration requirement. I listened to your answer, Ms. Olson, and I don't think you mentioned that one of the differences of that is that it allows you to ask for personal identification before somebody can vote. And I'm wondering if that is one of the purposes. Because I understand, otherwise I don't understand why you've departed from what is normal in such elections where that is not a requirement. Personal registration doesn't appear in the town law under which this this permissive referendum was called. There's no mention of the term. So under what authority do you say that you can require voters for this particular election to show up with personal ID, otherwise they won't be allowed to vote? Because that's the substantive difference of personal registration. It doesn't mean that you're accepting the Board of Elections voter registration role. That's a given in the town law. If you're registered to vote by the Board of Elections, you're registered to vote in the permissive referendum. But not necessarily required to show personal ID. I think it's possibly I don't want to characterize the motive. I have my suspicions, but that's not what I want to talk about. I wonder what authority you have to do that, legal authority.
Are you finished? I'm happy to answer, but I don't want to interrupt.
I am finished unless I'm allowed to respond to your answer. Yes, thank you.
Well, I'll pause your time. So personal registration is not having identification. Personal registration is the town having ability to have voters registered with the town. We have two options of how we can conduct the business of the special election. Number one is allowing any person over 18 who has lived in the town 30 days and is not registered to vote in another municipality. So for instance, if you're registered to vote in Florida and you're not established having residency here, you wouldn't be allowed to vote. We have the ability to allow, without personal registration, the ability for everybody 18 and over 30 days in the town and not registered someplace else to vote in a town election. However, if we do that, we are not allowed to provide absentee ballots. And I think it's really important for many people who are the only way they have the ability to vote is by absentee ballot if you're registered with the county. So what with personal registration we're doing is two things. Is number one, we will be accepting all of the people who are already registered with the County Board of Elections. So if you're already registered with the County Board of Elections, it's going to feel very similar to vote in the town of Ulysses election. You're going to show up and you're going to sign their poll book and they compare signatures. You're not going to have to sign, you're not going to have to show up on election day and show your ID. However, what this will allow is the town will also maintain a registration. So we will accept everybody who is already registered to vote with the county. And you are also going to have, the public will have an opportunity, if they are not registered with the Board of Elections, at specific dates that have not been set up, there will be a Board of Registry, I believe that's the right term. I could be wrong on the actual term Board of Registry. There will be, who will be people appointed by the town who come from a list provided by Tompkins County Board of Elections. These are the people, the poll workers who already are doing elections in the town for the county. And they will register any new additional people who are not currently registered with the county to vote. They will fill, those individuals will fill out an application that will feel very similar to any application you would fulfill to register with the county. And so, but those people, if you are over 18, if you've lived here at least 30 days, and if you are not registered to vote someplace else, because you're a resident someplace else, you will be also allowed to vote. Those voter registration days will happen in advance of the election. And so when you come and vote, if your name is, if you're already registered to vote, either through the county or through the special days the town sets up where you can also register to vote, you will be allowed to vote. This is going to feel very similar. We're going to be using county machines with ballots that are run on the county machine, so it'll be very similar to a general election. This is not us trying to suppress the vote. It's in fact trying to increase the vote, because otherwise, under New York State election law or town law, and we've had all of this vetted by an attorney. We have a town attorney whose job this week has been, or the last couple of weeks, has been putting together the materials. If we did not allow personal registration, and that's the term that is used, then members of the public would not be able to vote by absentee. Seeing as how many Americans, and I'm imagining many of our town residents, have access voting through absentee ballots, we wanted to make sure that was accessible. So I hope that's a little bit clarified. This is not an effort to suppress the vote. And if you're already registered to vote, you'll have every opportunity to vote in a very similar fashion. And the people who will be operating and managing the vote and the polling places will be likely the same people you see when you've got to vote in a general election or in a regular election. Does that help?
Yes, it helps very much, and I appreciate your answer. And I wasn't going to suggest that you were trying to suppress the vote at all. That was what you said. I understand now that you will not be asking, if people are registered to vote, they won't be asked for to present ID, as I believe you said. Just comparing signatures. Thank you. If people want to vote, register by personal registration process that you described, and I agree that could well expand the vote and more for that, then how will they establish that they're not registered to vote somewhere else? They then would have to show personal ID, I assume, to show where they're resident.
So I can't answer that question at this moment. I honestly don't remember when I registered with the county. I don't remember if I showed ID. It's been so long since I registered to vote. It will be in a similar process to that, and it will be the people they will be registering with. They will have to register in person. You know, the same people essentially who manage our voting process for elections are going to be managing that process as well. I will have more information for the public. We haven't established dates. We have not appointed anybody to those boards. That's going to happen at a subsequent meeting. So there are answers I can't legitimately give you at this point because I don't have that information at my fingertips, and I don't want to give you inaccurate information. Everything I've given you is to the best of my ability today. To the best of my knowledge, is accurate. We will make sure that that information is available. There will be an application to fill out for registering to vote. And I would lay out the facts too that national evidence is that there's very little evidence that of fraudulent voting happening in the United States. So I think there's some degree that we all have is that there's trust associated with this, but there are legal mechanisms to challenge. Like if a vote is closed, there are legal mechanisms that individuals have to challenge the authenticity of the vote process, and that happens in the court system. Again, that's beyond what I can reasonably articulate tonight. But we do have these we broadly under New York State election law have these processes in place, and I look forward to coming back on the meeting on the 24th with more information on some of those granular details. But because you did miss the earlier part, I will happily tell you directly. In the previous earlier this evening, we established the date of the election will be December 6th. It'll happen from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it'll be held at 2 different locations. So there'll be 2 different polling places. One will be Racker, which is a polling place that's commonly held for elections. We have elections in the town of Ulysses. On November 7th, it'll be one of the locations. And the second location is in the village, is a village hall. So they commonly hold village elections. So those are going to be the two locations. So I think that date, time, location, those are the 3 things we covered mostly tonight as well.
And then the details will be provided at a later meeting. So stay tuned.
Right. This is a multi-part process. So.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for your questions. I appreciate having the opportunity to clarify information, and hopefully that's useful. Okay, that brings us to the very end of the agenda.
Second.
Move to adjourn.
A little slow there.
A little